everyone, and welcome back to another week here at Just Gay Stuff Podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Lauren.
And we actually have met a few new people recently that have told us they've just started listening. So if you are a new listener, welcome aboard this crazy train that we decided to create, which is absolutely nothing short of crazy ever, because we record a lot of these episodes literally at the end of our day where we're
late
just,
at night.
we're just mental and wily and delirious.
We are delirious.
See?
Case in point. I feel like that's how we feel right now.
Yeah, but definitely delirious. I have had the longest day. I feel like I am running on like 0 spoons, which is usually how Lauren describes energy.
It is. For those listeners who have just joined us, thank you so much. And for those who I guess don't really know, because I don't talk about it that often on this. I don't think I've ever spoken
maybe once
about it on this podcast. I don't know. But I suffer from a lot of chronic illnesses and invisible illnesses. And I think I had either a physiotherapist or a psychologist or someone within that invisible chronic pain community explain the term spoons to me, because I was so dumbfounded when I first ever heard this, right? But it actually helps me really understand my brain and my body and how...
And probably explain to people about your energy levels and where that's sitting for your day.
Yeah, where that's sitting. So basically what they said to me, say you have 5 spoons in your drawer and that makes up your whole energy for the whole day. If you take 2 spoons to make the bed, that's fine. But some days you are worse than others, and sometimes...
Some days you might only have 2 spoons.
Some days you might only have 2 spoons, or some days it'll take all those 5 spoons for you to make the bed, and that is also okay. But then that's how you're able to gauge with people. So I think Jess is feeling the brunt of all the spoons gone at the moment.
We're grasping at spoons for this, honestly. But you guys are so important to us, so we're soldiering on and we're powering through.
Soldiering on, and we love you guys, and thank you so much.
So on this week's episode, we are going to have another bit of education.
Ooh, I love education.
I've done a lot of research for this, so I'm very proud of what I've brought together. But the whole reason that we're bringing this episode is because I was saying to Lauren the other night that our community has all of these slang terms, and a lot of these terms that have been derogatory under the queer umbrella for a very long time. And I said to Lauren, I wonder why that became a thing. Like, why did dyke and lesbian and FAG become such a derogatory term?
We've had conversations like this before that isn't anything to do with the derogatory terms within our community, but because I'm such a fan and fascinated by the English language, and I'm like, how do words hold such power? What person, or as a society, how did we go, okay, this word is suddenly going to hold this power and use it against someone or hurt someone?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're just sounds that come out of our mouths.
Yeah, literally. Like if you think about the F word, like F-U-C-K, those are just a random bunch of letters that were put together. So like, what if it was just the word Jess? Like what if that was suddenly a swear word?
Or like we were talking before about different cultures. So like in Australian culture, we call our friends like C-U-N-T.
Oh, yeah.
Like not everybody, obviously. There's still different cultural groups and whatever. But if you were to call your friend that in America or in England, that's so different.
Yeah, it's become such a colloquialism of the Australian language, which is so weird to me. I don't like that word, but...
So we decided we were going to bring you an episode where we discuss the origins of these slang terms that we have under the queer umbrella.
Yeah, and those are the words, like you said, like lesbian, dyke, the F word.
Yeah. And so... Speaking of the F word, we're going to jump in and probably start with that one, because I think that as a society, we are never going to reclaim that in the queer culture. I think it's been derogatory for so long that I don't think we're going to get over that. So let's find out where it came from.
Yeah.
And if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm talking about the word F-A-G-G-O-T. And I'm going to spell it for most of this because I hate the word and I don't want to say it out loud.
Yeah, we hate the word. And if you guys are feeling some kind of way, just skip 15 seconds or 20 seconds to the next one.
Yeah. So we're going to start off with the F word. Now, some of you may know that in the dictionary, this word actually means a bundle of sticks, which a lot of people tend to believe that the correlation between calling a gay man FAG is because a bundle of sticks relates to a bundle of dicks.
What?
But let me assure you, that is not the case. There are actually a few different explanations for why FAGGOT came to be such a derogatory term for a gay man.
Oh, okay.
So here's a few interesting ones that I found. The first theory is that it came from witches that used to be burnt at the stake.
Okay.
This theory is because a FAGGOT is indeed a bundle of wood or sticks that is used for the purpose of fuel. As we know, witches used to be burnt at the stake, and while burning at the stake was a traditional punishment mostly for women, from the 12th century in Christian Europe, gays were also thrown into the fire.
Oh.
So the theory here is that because gays were burnt on the FAGGOT, that became the term. Also, this theory feeds into the term flamer, if anybody has ever heard that term.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I think Mark said it on one of our
he
episodes.
did, yeah.
He described himself as a little flamer, which essentially means like a little gay boy or a little gay man.
Okay.
This is also why typically the British call a single cigarette a FAG, because in this term, I will say the word, a fag is a singular stick away from the bundle. And what do you do to the end of a cigarette?
You burn it.
Yeah.
You light it up.
Yeah. Are you learning with me?
I am learning with you. I was also thinking that makes sense why they would call cigarettes like plural, the FAGS.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So there are a couple more theories here. Another theory is that because the official British definition of the word fagging means to work hard or tediously at a task. This was then correlated to women who were doing housework. And because housework or slaving tasks like housework were seen to be such a feminine thing to do, anyone who showed feminine features then became subject to that slur.
That's terrible. Get off the gender
I know.
stereotype roles.
But you know, social norms and all that. Another theory and term linked to some British history is that in traditional boarding schools, younger boys were assigned to do chores for the senior boys.
Okay.
So linked to the definition before of working hard and fagging, the younger boys were fagging for the older boys. And then I'm sure we can all see how that snowballed into meaning men liking other men or doing things for other men.
Yeah.
Also, linked to those two theories is that a FAGGOT, or a bundle of sticks, was also used to make a broom handle. So while the boys were performing chores, they often got referred to by the name of the tool they were using to perform the duty.
So the broom was also named the FA.
Well, the broom handle. So before it had the bristles on the end.
Okay, got you.
It was a bundle of like long sticks that were tied together.
I get you now.
So then if you were using an FAGGOT to sweep the floor, they were calling you an FAG.
Okay.
And if you were fagging, which meant to work hard, they would call you an FAG.
Okay, I understand that. I also was thinking along the lines of the correlation between the witches and the broomstick.
Well, yeah, that still works.
Yeah.
It all kind of concludes into one.
Yeah, okay.
One dark side of the origin of the word, though, that is absolutely terrible, is that there were also rumours that sexual favours were part of the duties that the younger boys had to perform on the older boys, and that is also why the term is used as a slur for men who like other men.
That's so terrible, and it really sucks. You know, I know a lot of people suffer from that sexual harassment in boarding schools.
Yeah, and to be honest, these words, even this word, I don't think ever meant to hold the weight that it has. It's just something you called someone, but because it's been used so derogatorily, it's like snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, the weight of those words become heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm like,
they're just words.
And but
they hurt.
They hurt. The Sticks and Stones song is wrong because words will hurt you.
Absolutely.
They cut the scars deeper than the sticks.
Yeah, especially when it's purposeful, I find.
Yeah.
Because we can have open communication and open conversation where we can say, this word doesn't affect me and I'm happy to talk about it. But if somebody purposefully throws that slur at you to hurt you, well, then that's a completely different story.
Yeah, it's a different story.
So there you go. There's the definitions of how FAG became a slur.
I am glad we got the hardest one out of the way first.
Well, the next one's not much better, but we will move on.
Okay.
So the next one, and sorry again to anybody who is finding this offensive, this is literally supposed to just be educational. We are not using these terms derogatory by any means.
Just the origins.
Yeah. So the next word we're going to say is poofter.
Okay.
Looking up this word today, you will get the result that it's slang or derogatory term for a homosexual man. But the whole purpose of this is why? Why was it that?
So it's literally just the only definition that comes up when you put that word?
When you put that word, yes.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, how am I going to get to the origin of this? Well, I had to shorten it to the word poof to get any results. So the English result that it gave me when I put this into Google was that it is a small ottoman commonly paired with a chair or a lounge to act as a footrest. But poof in French, spelt P-O-U-F, gave a bit more clarity on the situation.
Okay.
So in France, or in French language, a poof, P-O-U-F, is slang for a woman who dresses up or uses makeup to look like a prostitute.
Okay.
It has also been used to describe someone that has a bad reputation. So I don't think I really need to go further on that one. It's pretty derogatory. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you're calling somebody this, it's because you think that they're a bad person. Or they're bringing bad reputation to themselves or their family.
That part I can understand. I think the first part confused me a bit, that maybe it was like a term in terms of like drag queen or something.
No.
No?
So they were originally using it to describe women.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't use that word.
Well, I mean, this is the thing though. Some people aren't offended by this word and some people are.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between all of us in the queer umbrella. We have all experienced language differently.
Yeah. It's just like you said, if something's been used at you with intent to hurt you or call you out for some reason, then of course.
Yeah. Moving on, we're going to look at the word dyke.
I don't like this one.
I don't like this word either, but I love the origin of this word.
Oh, okay.
So lesbians have actually been reclaiming this word since the early 80s after it had been used as a slur so often. However, the origin of this is great.
Okay.
Now, what is a dyke, actually? Do you know?
No, I don't.
So
enlighten me.
A dyke is actually a bridge or a structure that is built to stop the flooding of water.
Oh, what?
So this is common in like the Netherlands, in Amsterdam.
Right.
Because the city is on water, they have to use bridges.
Is it like a hammer thing or?
No, it's like a wall that you build.
It's a
like
wall.
A dam.
Oh, like a dam. Okay,
yep.
Got you.
So in Amsterdam, because the city is essentially on water, they have a lot of dikes in Amsterdam. A lot of walls, a lot of things to stop flooding in the city.
I'm showing how much I don't know in this episode.
But why is it used to describe queer women? Well, this dates back to a story called The Little Dutch Boy Who Saved Holland.
Okay.
This story was set in the Netherlands and is about a little boy who becomes a hero after plugging a crack in a seawall with his finger to stop a catastrophic flood. Are you getting the correlation here?
Kinda, yeah.
The story was supposed to convey a powerful message about how a small act can make such a significant change, like the butterfly effect, for instance. But instead,
sliding door moments.
Yeah, but instead, this has led to the word dyke becoming a slur because the sexual act between two cis women is, quote unquote, plugging them with a finger.
Oh my gosh. I knew it was going to end up along those lines because the minute you said bridge and water and flowing, and I was like, we're getting somewhere.
Anybody who knows the Kath and Kim episode, season 1, episode 2, called Gay, Kath refers to Kim as you're a Dutch seawall.
Oh.
You're a dyke on a bike, if you like.
That makes so much sense now.
Yep.
I've never understood that quote before. Like, I got the intention, but...
Now, the Brits seem to have like a lot of history for a lot of these words. Other information further explained that in British history, the word dyke had derived from the word hermaphrodite.
Okay.
But personally, I really don't see the connection. And also, dyke has universally been a term that described particularly women that go against the social norms of romancing a man.
Yeah, true.
I don't think it's ever been used for intersex people or anything like that. So
because we often correlate and associate people who would be described that term with more masculine features.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So let's go to my personal least favorite word, lesbian.
Oh, that's so interesting to me that you, I guess this is what this whole episode is about, that you know, we have different feelings against different words. Like, I don't have an issue with this word.
Don't get me wrong. I hate the word
Whereas
dyke.
you do, but I hate
the word dyke. I think it's so like, it's so hard.
So hard and offensive.
It's hard on your tongue. No puns intended. Like, but it's so hard to say. It's like when you say the F word because it's got that like k.
Yeah,
it's like cutting.
Yeah.
Lesbian does roll off the tongue a lot nicer, but I think
there's a lot of tongue jokes going on here.
As I've said in a few episodes, I think just so many people used that term in a derogatory way in high school that it's just always not sat well with me.
Yeah. I think people who haven't listened to the first episode or I can't even remember what episode we did it in. Who knows? But one of our very first ones, they should have a listen to see why you don't like that word.
Yeah. The origin of this word, though, is actually quite fun.
Okay.
It is actually quite fun.
I like fun ones.
I learnt a lot from this.
Did you?
Yep. So, the word lesbian derived from the Greek island of Lesbos.
Ah.
Now, a few people might know that already. This is the part that I didn't know.
Is it where all the lesbians go?
No, look, my next line. Despite what everyone thinks, this island wasn't a bustling lesbian hotspot in ancient times.
Drats.
It was, however, home to the Greek poet known as Sappho.
Oh, so that's where we get the term sapphic from.
Wait your turn. I'm getting there.
Sorry. Okay. I was getting excited.
So Sappho lived around the 6th century BC and was known for her poems that described expressing love and desire for other women.
Kate.
This also describes where the term sapphic comes from.
I jumped me gun.
You did, but you were 100% correct.
Okay.
And if you were from Lesbos, you were referred to as a lesbian in the same way that people from Melbourne are typically branded Melburnian.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
I know, right?
Think of all these men getting called lesbians.
Yeah, right. I didn't think about it.
I live for it. I live in.
Quickly also wanted to touch on the fact that there's that meme going around Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
That is literally like feta cheese and it says lesbian feta.
I think I showed you that meme on my phone
and I feel like everybody keeps sending that meme because they think that it's been spelt wrong.
No, it's literally it.
It's literally just feta cheese that was made on the island of Lesbos.
Not that I'm one that likes cheese, but I was like, that's probably some tasty as cheese.
Doesn't taste like lesbians, Lauren.
I don't know.
Okay, so this next word actually really surprised me. And I wasn't even going to include it because I thought everybody just knows what it means. And that's gay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know where we were going with this one.
So I knew historically that the word gay just meant happy. But when I looked into it, I actually learnt how it took on a few faces before it eventually was used to describe a homosexual man.
Oh, okay.
And I actually learnt a lot.
Really?
So I am so proud to be sharing this knowledge with everybody.
I'm settling in.
Yeah, settle in. The word gay actually dates back to England around the 12th century. Are you seeing a pattern here?
Yeah, I am, but I'm not surprised.
It's all this like English
the
origins.
language.
Yeah, except for lesbian. That's Greek.
Yes. And the P one is French.
Ah, yes. A move.
Yes. Was that your French accent?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the word gay dates back to England around the 12th century and originally derived... hang on. I take it back. Originally derived from the French word gay, spelled G-A-I.
I mean, they're close to each other.
The original meaning translated to joyful, carefree, happy and bright.
So that's where the happy,
gay
happy comes from.
But in the 17th century... the word started to be used in a derogatory way to describe someone who was acting immorally.
Oh.
The meaning of the word had then changed to addicted to pleasures and dissipations or living a loose and immoral life.
Okay.
This was derived more from the original meaning of carefree, progressing to mean uninhibited, which means to express unself-consciously and without restraint. So essentially going out and flaunting yourself with no care for respect Fast forward to the 19th century, where ironically the word gay to describe a man meant he slept with an abundance of women.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
So if a man was gay, it meant he was sharing himself around too much.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense if you go back
to the happy carefree.
To the happy carefree and then how they said immorally.
Mm-hmm. It was also used to describe a woman who was a working prostitute.
Yeah.
Because she was carefree, immoral.
Sharing herself around.
Yeah. Also, at this time, to say the phrase to gay it meant you were having sexual intercourse.
Oh.
So if we went, oh, we're going to go gay it, we're going to go have sex.
Okay.
That's what it meant.
Wow.
Yeah. I did not know any of this.
No, my mind is blown. I had no idea.
I literally, going into this episode, I was like, okay, there's going to be like one meaning here and one meaning there, and then there's going to be like a snowball of why it ended up here. But this one actually really surprised me.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so surprised right now too.
Yeah, because I wasn't even going to include it.
Yeah.
So. The term gay was still being used for its original meanings at this time, and it hadn't changed exclusively to describe prostitutes or promiscuous men. However, around the 1920s, they started to see a shift that a gay man was a man who had sex with a number of men and not a number of women.
Okay.
This also then became the term a gay cat, which also came about to describe a homosexual boy. From this time, it was gay men themselves that took on the term to describe who they were, because the terms homosexual and homosexuality were deemed very clinical, as we know that homosexuality was eventually branded a disorder and first published to be so in 1952 by the American Psychiatric Association, classified under sociopathic personality disturbance, which we have lightly covered in the illegals episode.
We have, and for all of those who aren't watching the video, I just sat here shaking my head the whole time while Jess was reading that out. Ugh.
Just to reiterate this really quickly, men started calling themselves gay so that people weren't calling them homosexual because they didn't want to have a disorder.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be branded as having a disorder.
Yeah.
Since then, the word gay, meaning a homosexual man, has steadily driven out all the other definitions, and we don't use those definitions anymore. To hear the word gay be referred to as anything else is very rare.
That's very true. Like, honestly, you reading that to me, like, I just learned so much then. I had no idea. The same thing of you probably did when you did the research. Was my only two definitions was
happy gay man
and homosexuality.
Yeah. My mind was absolutely blown. I was like, considering I wasn't even going to include this one because I just thought it was so common knowledge.
No, I had no idea.
Okay, so the last one we're going to cover in this episode is queer, which, as we know, a lot of our community has really reclaimed over the years.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that a few people haven't liked it previously, but I feel like especially the younger generation now have fully taken it on. I know that I often use that term as well. I switch between queer and lesbian. So.
Yeah, well, I don't use lesbian, but
No, you use gay though.
I use gay. Gay is my term. Yeah. I love that one. But I do use queer to say like queer umbrella, queer community. I feel like it's very... It's turned from a derogatory term to a very inclusive term.
Yeah.
And we get into that here.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So I really feel like queer has never had overly positive connotations to it. In some aspects of the community across the world, the Q word was seen to be as derogatory as the N word.
Really?
Yeah, particularly in American culture before Stonewall.
Yeah.
The Q word was as bad as the N word.
Wow.
And I can see why.
I can see why too, and I understand why.
The word queer dates back to the 16th century and was primarily used to describe someone or something strange, odd, peculiar, or eccentric. I know a few people like that.
Same.
Queer didn't take on the meaning of homosexuality straight away, though.
They never do.
No. Up until the 90s, people were still using the word queer to describe others that didn't meet social norms. So,
wow.
Men and women who were single in their later years or showed very little interest in coupling or marrying. And queer was even used to describe childless couples because people didn't see that as normal.
So it was more just, like going against the societal norms or if you were a bit odd.
Yep, totally. Queer theory drew on social constructionism. People developed knowledge of the world in a social construct.
Okay.
And to be queer was to critique that idea to be that any sexuality or gender identity was normal or natural.
Yeah.
Which is what we've done by reclaiming it now, essentially.
Of course.
People, especially those who were outly homosexual, started describing themselves as queer in order to make a stand through activism and used the word to also mean that they were more assertive, critical thinkers, and were against certain political actions.
Good on them.
Yeah. This also dates back to like activism at Stonewall, and everyone's heard that chant, "We're here, we're queer."
Yeah.
Everyone was embracing that word, being like, yes, we go against social norms. You will still treat us equally and you will still listen to us because we still have a voice.
Yeah, accept us.
Yeah. As of the 2000s, the word queer has become an umbrella term for the LGBTQIA+ community and has been fully inclusive of the spectrum of sexuality and gender identity.
That's true.
Today, queer is seen as quite a respectful and inclusive way to refer to all diverse genders and sexualities.
I think, like we've said, it just opens up the whole umbrella.
Yeah. And you can feel included under that word, I feel now. And if you don't, that's completely up to you.
Yeah, that's your choice.
Yeah. So although understandably, a lot of these terms can still sit uncomfortably for some, considering their historically negative use in the LGBTQIA plus community, we have all worked really hard to reclaim a lot of the homophobic and transphobic slurs and use them to liberate our own identities openly and proudly.
Yeah.
And I think depending on what you dealt with growing up and how some of those terms were negatively geared towards you might define how you feel about those words now in later life. And yeah, like I said, everybody knows how I feel about the word lesbian. And that's because of my negative connotations of people thrusting that word upon me when I wasn't ready to accept who I was, or I felt like it was always such a bad term for me.
Yeah, and I do agree with that, but I also think that now, since doing this podcast, you've accepted it a little bit more as well.
I don't hate saying the word anymore.
Yeah.
As I said, it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
What is important is that reclamation. Because as we touched on in other episodes, if you take a slur and start using it yourself, you're actually taking the power away from the people who are trying to hurt you that are using it. And in our queer society, I'm really proud that a lot of us have been able to do that.
Yeah.
With anything, it's important to take away the power from the bully and live your best life.
Literally, the best revenge is living your best life.
Yep. Well, I hope you learned something.
Honestly, I really did. I was going to say, I hope there's not a quiz because
there's not a quiz.
I would not be able to remember it all, but I definitely had an education.
I know that it was a lot of information, so you might have to listen to this episode on like half speed.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was back in school writing an essay when I did this, but it was so much fun.
I had a pretty hot teacher, so.
Me.
Yes, you.
I was like, yeah, I know, you told me. It was your English teacher.
No,
like,
you doofus right now.
I feel like learning the origins of some of these words also makes me feel a bit differently about them, both positive and negative.
Yeah, same. I think, like we've said throughout this whole episode, it's just so interesting to see how random meanings suddenly snowballed and became derogatory terms.
Or how like literally words are just sounds that come out of our mouth and they can hold so much power and be so hurtful.
Yeah.
But I do hope that learning some of the origins of where these words came from can either give power to you or take the power away from the word for you.
Yeah.
Because that was the whole purpose of this, was learning why did they become what they have become today.
Literally. Well, I know that I learned something and I hope our listeners learned something too.
Oh, I think everyone would have taken something away from this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Well, I hope you stay tuned for another episode next week. And until then,
you better remember to stay gay, motherfuckers.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.